This presentation is the culmination of a 9-year investigation into the authenticity of the Curiosity rover imagery. All images in this presentation were sourced exclusively from NASA and JPL. All Mars image credit goes to JPL. In 2009, Curiosity's launch was delayed 2 years due to component delivery delays that raised her total price tag to $2.5 billion. There was tremendous pressure to launch, as the agency would have to wait 26 more months if they didn't meet the deadline. Such a delay would require a mission redesign costing another $570 million. A report by the Inspector General found 1,200 reports of problems or failures 10 months prior to launch. Miraculously, Curiosity launched in November 2011. The Curiosity rover was the first rover of its kind and was named a Mars Science Lab, and its suite of tools included 17 cameras. This investigation focuses on the navigation cameras that are housed on top of the mast on the right and left sides, approximately 10 inches apart. Selected images taken by Curiosity's 17 cameras are posted daily on its public-facing website called the Raw Images. The images posted are organized by the type of camera used. Oddly, the clear images of the rover on Mars have excessive amounts of photoshopping applied to the images, as you can see here. In addition to the white marks, a black box is often used to block out parts of images. The white scratch-outs are used on the rover, while the black boxes are used to cover larger areas. These black boxes are explained away by NASA as missing data image during the downloads. The PDS Image Atlas is an archive developed to house all imagery taken by spacecraft and available for scientists around the world to study. Many of the images found in the atlas contain large amounts of color applied to the normally black and white images. The color in these images is explained by the JPL team as overlays and allow the rover drivers to assess the distance from the rover when planning drives. These are a few examples of Curiosity's imagery awash with the colorful overlays applied to the images. The addition of the color is a distraction and interferes with studying the Martian surface. Here is an image of the turret elevated into the air. Why would it be colored? In this odd image, only the rover is colored, and not the Martian surface. This image of Curiosity's deck has been colored. There is no Martian surface to be seen, so why would this image of the deck be so heavily covered? Here we see 5 examples where Curiosity was specifically covered with green. Was this part of the mapping software? Here we see the green mask applied to an image side by side with one that had been colored. We now see that the green mask was in fact a template of sorts to block when the color is applied. Here again on Sol 152, we see that the green mask was applied to the image, thereby creating the exact place where they wanted the color to be applied. This close-up of the rover arm at rest shows a photoshopping error. In the enlargement on the right, we can see where they overdrew the metal pointer at the end. This should not be here. Here's an example of the correct way this should be appearing. They overdrew it into this larger base. That should not be there. This close-up of the rover arm, which is actually 3 feet off the ground, curiously appears on the surface. In the enlargement on the right, we can see that the pointer has been photoshopped into the Martian surface. In these 4 colorful images on the left, we can see that the template was not used and that the nameplate in each one was uniquely colored. On the right, the images were converted to black and white. The robotic arm is at rest in each image and looks the same, except for the different backgrounds. Here we can compare the nameplates in each image. The 2 on the left from Sol 535 and Sol 560 are weather-worn and scratched up. Oddly, the other 2 on the right from Sol 790 and Sol 903 do not appear to have any scratches and appear brand new. How is that possible? These 3 colorful images are awash with color, including the rover. Once again, the rover appears identical in all 3 images, but there is one important distinction to be made. When we compare the colorized version with the original on the right, we see a curious difference. One of the drill bit holders underneath is white, while the others are all dark. They should all be the same color. In this image, the white one is now black and darker than the others. There's no discernible light in this image to create any shadows. How can this be black when the others are a lighter color? Here we see various ones change from black to white. There's no direct light in these images to create any shadows to cause this effect. This set of 9 thumbnail images of Curiosity's upper deck has 2 green images. Let's take a closer look at one of them. In the upper left green image, notice that the JPL logo is no longer visible. It is somewhat blurry, but we should still be able to see some of the logo. Where did it go? The 10 inches between the left and right navigation cameras present images with different perspectives, as we see here in these 2 images from Sol 1250. The image from Sol 801 shows similar before and after images after the green has been applied. Are these images being photoshopped? Here we see a series of images that were stored in the PDS image atlas taken of the same location on Sol 153. Why was the green filter applied to the images? In this series of images from Sol 40, in the upper left corner, we begin with the left navigation image. To the right, the green mask has been applied to the image, creating the space where the rover is to move to. The final masking shows in the final image where we show the right nav cam image ends. If the right and left navigation cameras are taking their images simultaneously, why would these images be masked like this? In the color image on the right, the yellow template has been applied to the image. The red arrow points to where the ghost image of the original position of the rover was. In the upper left image is the left nav cam image, and on the lower right, the right nav cam. Are the two green images in between how the right nav cam image was created? These 10 images are the same exact image, each with unique color application. A request was made of JPL Rover drivers for an explanation of each color. No response was received. Here are 4 interesting images. The mapping software can be seen in the background. It's difficult to see the rover, and each was uniquely colored. No template was used. It is difficult to see the rover in this colorful image. Perhaps the color is to distract the viewer from noticing the UHF antenna is completely black. It shouldn't be. The left image is the true color of the antenna as it is covered with the reflective silver material. In the middle image, it was converted to see how it would appear in a black and white image. Why is the other one black? This odd image was stored in Curiosity's archives in the PDS Image Atlas. Its presence in the atlas was a complete mystery. Clearly, it has nothing to do with Mars. After studying this image, it became readily apparent the purpose of the odd blue pattern. The image was used as a template to apply color to this image. Here we see the left side has been applied here, and this right part is over here. Why would NASA intentionally add color to its images? Is there something in this image that we shouldn't see? Close scrutiny provided the answer. An anomaly was detected. A cylindrical silver peg was seen protruding from the Martian surface. Why was it there? The color image on the left shows how the short screw should appear. It is not long and cylindrical, as is shown in the image on the right that it's coming out of the ground. In 2012, Curiosity used its scoop for the first time with great fanfare, and it was covered in the media. This dark image from the PDS Image Atlas, where large images are curiously stored with the brightness and contrast turned completely down. Here, Curiosity has made its first 3 scoops. In this image, she completed her 4th scoop. This image from the PDS Image Atlas shows the same area where the scoops were taken from the Martian surface, and the arm is extended. At a quick glance, it would be easy to miss 2 objects that have been placed in the depression in the dirt. A square white object with 2 sets of pinstripes has been added, and another odd-shaped object is over here. Here we can compare the 2 images and show that the left one doesn't have anything in it. The image on the right does. How did it get there? During this investigation, thousands of images were reviewed to find a specific image. That search turned up some interesting discoveries along the way. Here we discovered two images that are essentially identical. Sol 223 and Sol 269 had the same exact image. The only difference was the shadows on the white blades of the motor in the back had the shadows removed in one and changed and put into the other one. That's significant, as it shows they were manipulating the shadows. One other striking feature, as you notice in the image on the right, they completely faded out the mountains, which were much more noticeable in the image from Sol 223. Further analysis found 7 images where the rover appeared identical in each image. Only the background changed. In each image, it became obvious that the rover was identical. Every shadow, every detail. The only difference was the background kept changing. In this comparison of Sol 528 and Sol 1410, over a year and a half apart, show the exact same shadows. One image was taken at 6 o'clock at night and the other one at midnight. How would the rover have the same exact shadows? These two images were taken over 3 years apart. The rover's shadows once again are identical. The only difference is the background. Not much of the rear deck of the rover is shown in this image taken by the left navigation camera, but a small but significant detail was observed. In the rear of the deck, a dark letter L has appeared and has not been observed there before. The next day, on Sol 1155, the marking was no longer showing. How did it get there? And how did it get removed on a lone rover traversing Mars? Here we see again an image of the rover used twice on 2 different days. The Photoshop scratches that are to be lens flares on the left side are identical. The images were taken 9 hours apart. How would they have the same lens flare? This image was taken recently on January 1st, 2024. It contains an inexplicable detail that should not be there. Here we have a color image on the left to show how the equipment should appear. In the right image, we can see a silver base of 3 tiers. The second one has a small black hole. In the black and white image, it appears that a small disc has been added, and an angled material folds down the 3rd tier. It was added to lessen the obvious addition of the disc. It should not be there. And how did it get there on a lone rover on Mars? This is an image from the PDS Image Atlas, and the camera is viewing the left side of the deck. On the far right side, a shelf appears. It is observed again in another image. The shelf in both instances was to trick the viewer into thinking they were seeing the outer edge of Curiosity's top deck. There is a simple way to prove that it's not the rover's body. Here we can see in a side-by-side comparison with a color image. Curiosity's outer frame actually angles upward as it goes towards the front of the deck. The shelf over here is flat and is horizontal. In this image, we see the robotic arm extended with the turret resting on the APXS. A shadow of the arm is observed and a darker shadow underneath the turret. A closer look shows why there is a significant difference in the two shadows. When a filter is applied to the image, we can see that the darker shadow was actually caused by an object that it was resting on. That substance was shaped to conform to the shape of the equipment to create the illusion of a shadow. Here we can even see the depression of the equipment pressing into the material. The perspective in this image is lower to the ground as it was taken by the front hazard cameras. A close-up of the front left wheel shows two white round tacks on the Martian surface. How did they get there? They did not come from Curiosity. In this close-up, we are seeing Curiosity's right middle wheel. In the shadow, the suspension contains an obvious change to the equipment. In the image on the right, we can clearly see the correct shape of the bracket. In the image on the left, although placed in the shadows, we can see materials have been added to the top raised portion. Here is the outer edge, which we expect to see. But here a rounded material has been added, but you can see the shadow does not line up with the rest of the unit. And here we can see that the material has been come down and draped, and you can even see the edge of the material here. How could this be done on a lone rover on Mars? Here the turret is at rest on the front deck. A close-up of the left rear shows a steel bolt resting on the Martian surface. How did it get there? This is Curiosity's Mars dial. Through the years, Curiosity was only able to capture images of its Mars dial in this position, as the gnomon blocked the view of the year, as is shown in this example. In an article in Popular Science magazine, one of the artists responsible for designing the Mars dials was quoted saying, "Curiosity will be stamped Mars 2012. Why does this image of the Mars dial taken by the Molly camera show 2010? How could this have been changed by a lone rover on Mars? This color image taken by the mast camera took a close-up of the turret. The brown strap had been stamped with the manufacturing identifier code. When enlarged, it reads JPL Master Artwork. During a visit to JPL, a Curiosity engineer was asked, "Why would it say that?" He responded, "I don't know. JPL doesn't have an art department." An interview with Mike Griffin, who was NASA administrator at the time, was posted in New Scientist News magazine. Some interesting insight regarding Curiosity was revealed. Quote, NASA officials decided to press ahead with the over-budget Mars Science Laboratory rover, which was rumored to be in danger of cancellation. One problem is that the rover's immense weight has proven to be too much for the gears in the tiny actuators or motors that control the rover's robotic arm, power its drill, and turn the wheels. "We have poured over $1.5 billion into this," said Weller. "It's a flagship mission." Was a $2.5 billion failure of a flagship mission of the new class of Mars Science Labs Too much for NASA to accept? Did they launch the rover anyway? Is that why we have been seeing staged images of Curiosity? You decide.